The original version of this video was uploaded to JasonVerney's YouTube channel, where it and many other videos, podcasts, snippets and films can be found. That channel can be found at youtube.com/JasonVerney. This is the Not So Korean podcast. I am JasonVerney. As you probably know, we started this podcast back in 2021 and used to record this live in UK's Koreatown itself. That's an area in and around New Malden. Yes, that's the largest Koreatown and Korean community in Europe. These days, we bring you such episodes and therefore information and interviews from various places in the world, including Korea itself. This is the Not So Korean podcast. I am JasonVerney. It's been a while since the last episode, and in this episode we're going to cover a lot of information, a lot of events that have been, events that I've attended, people I've met to do with the Korean culture, a Korean diaspora, etc., etc. Events, a film screening from me, one of my films, which is premiering in the UK. A couple of music gigs that I've attended while in the UK. A film I've seen. All kinds of stuff. There's so much to talk about here. There's some unexpected events that happened. This whole time and this whole trip to the UK was unexpected in itself. First of all, you might have noticed that the last episode of this series 2, I think it was 47 and 48, was an interview with Joe McPherson, and also there was an episode where I spoke about my sort of, things I got up to in my autumn visit to Korea, and that was at the tail end of 2024. Now, I was then settled in sort of Thailand at Chiang Mai, and Chiang Mai is somewhere I speak about. Another earlier episode you can check out where I speak about Koreans and Handal Salgi, which is when Koreans spend 1 month living somewhere, whether it's Jeju, whether it's Chiang Mai, whether it's Da Nang in Vietnam or something like that. So I was there, and then something happened and I was suddenly forced. I was brought back to the UK. Now this was mid-February. This is now being recorded towards the end of May, and actually it's on the day that I've got the special announcement to make about a film of mine that's going to be screening the first Saturday of June, but also it's the day I've also booked my flight back to Asia, so I will talk a bit about that in a second. So I was, the circumstances, I came back mid-February not wanting to be back in the UK, especially, back in the UK when it's freezing cold. I wasn't based in New Malden, Koreatown, which is where I was before I went on this great sort of Asian adventure, which, I based out in Chiang Mai and Korea twice a year I visit. But that's been the kind of that's kind of been the pattern, once or twice a year, give or take. Obviously, just before that we had, the dreaded pandemic and all that. But we, where things are sort of back on track in many ways with the world. So I found myself back in the UK mid-February. It's now towards the end of May. Actually, it was mid-February, towards the end of February kind of thing. And this wasn't, therefore, a specifically Korean-related trip back to the UK. I am, I would call myself semi-based in the UK, but more and more moving out to Asia. And there's been a lot of stuff coincidentally or, on purposely think events that have happened while I've been in the UK, and there's things coming up. So that's what this episode is about. I'll try not to bore you too much with that, but we'll also have some interviews in the future, and this episode will be probably the penultimate episode before the close of series 2, because then I'll start a new series, a series 3. I'm working on some films, and there's Korean related films and all kinds, but I'll probably touch a bit more on that later. So this is in no particular order, but we've got a UK premiere of my feature film, which is regarding the Sewol Ferry, coming up at Kingston International Film Festival on the 7th of June. Now, if you're going to attend that, I'm going to give some more details on this. If you're going to attend that, you're going to probably meet the co-host of the Not So Korean podcast, who I started this this show with back in New Malden. That's Tim. But speaking of Tim, we did meet up. We've met up. We've met up twice now. We've met up, I think, at least twice. Sorry, Tim, if I can't remember the exact amount of times. But we met up once. We met up and went to Jiha Castle together, and that was quite sort of interesting because it's near where one of my family members lives, and we had a great time. I think we might have even spotted something Korean on the menu. No, I'm not sure if that was that time. But and I also met Tim another time, which I will touch on in a second. That'll be my next subject, actually, because the next thing I'm going to speak about, although I spent a couple of probably 6 weeks or so in Kent, and I had to be there for certain family reasons, and it was after that I then went to Bristol. Now, there's some Koreanness coming here in Bristol, but while I was in Bristol, something important happened back in New Malden, Koreatown, and that was the 11th, the Sewol Ferry. Now, if you know me, or if you know these podcasts, or if you know what I've done before with video art and activism, you'll know that I'm very passionate about the Sewol Ferry and what happened. 304 people lost their lives at that time. They weren't rescued. They were told to stay put. 3/4 of these were children, or more than 3/4 perhaps. More than 250 were children. Many were teachers. There was people that could swim and could have, been rescued, could have swum, could have got their own way out of this situation. Anyway, it was the 11th anniversary, and so my great friends and activists, and they're really good friends, and they're Korean and non-Korean. We got together in New Malden for that 11th anniversary memorial, and it was a really nice day. Despite the subject matter, we got together. We were joined by sort of clergy, a couple of people that, they knew about it and they joined us. We then went to 63 High Street, a cafe we used to go to quite a bit. Bear in mind, we've been doing these with these Sewol memorials, demonstrations, whatever, they've been called different things over the years. We've been doing them every month for more than 10 years. And although I haven't been in the country all the time, whenever I am, I try to do that. And they either happen in Trafalgar Square, so it's once a month. Often it's the third Saturday of the month. And we try to also make it, near to the 16th of the month, especially when it's the annual ones, because obviously 16th of April is when it happened in 2014. So it was really good. Tim was there as well, but there was also Andrew, Lion, people that you won't know if I mention all the names, but we went to the cafe afterwards. The generous people in the cafe also gave us some servisu, some complimentary items to eat, some cakes and things, and it was just a really nice feeling to be with my friends and be back in New Malden, where I was residing most of the time. For about 3 years I lived there, I also lived in a temple, a Buddhist temple, kind of in Norbiton area, kind of Kingston area, New Malden area for a while as well. And anyway, it was a really good it was such a lovely time, because I haven't been in the UK for, I think it was coming up to, well, it was about a year and a half, let's just say a year and a half. And although I had met one or two of these people out in Asia, I believe, in that time, it was great to see them in the UK. As I say, they spend time in Trafalgar Square, but they also they alternate it between New Malden, which is Koreatown, and if you don't know already, it's the largest community of Koreans in Europe, basically. So I also went to visit one or two friends, like the people at the Kingston Environment Centre. I think one or two of those might be coming along to my film screening, which I'll come back to in a sec. Met my friend Risa. She collaborated on my 30-minute drama, which was also in Kingston International Film Festival back in 2022. That was the UK premiere then. And, so that was really good. So after all this, so I was based in Bristol, but I zoomed back one day to Surrey or Greater London for this Sewol Ferry anniversary. But being in Bristol, some other things occurred relating to Korea. And this was things I didn't have anything planned for Korean things, Korean related friends or Korean events. One of them was meeting, one of these big things really was Philip Gowman was suddenly going to be in Bristol. Now he runs London Korean Links, and if you go to londonkoreanlinks.net, you'll see every Korean related event pretty much that happens in the UK, or at least that he gets notified about or finds out about. It's also got a very big Facebook presence with its group, and I'll touch on that in a sec, because there's a couple of events that have been posted in that group. And we met, and we both went along to Park Jiha. Now she plays two or three very very unique Asian Korean instruments. If you go back to one of our old Not So Korean podcast episodes, you'll see one entitled Park Jiha, and we kind of review a couple of her shows that I went to in London before. Now I've met her before, and her music is just sublime. One of her favourite tracks is actually not one that was on an album, it was one of her EPs, but her stuff is always, it's just sublime to listen to. And at that time we went to a restaurant, and now it's called Dongne. It's kind of the smaller, it's the sister company. No, it's this. What should I say? It's the spin. There's a well-known restaurant in Bristol, and this is like the smaller version of that. So we went along to that. I'm just looking outside the window here. Now I'm in the countryside so I've been in Bristol. I'm now in sort of Kent area again, different place to before. And I'm in this amazing sort of, I'm calling it my recording space, but it's kind of a shepherd's hut. And it's not a hut as in a hut, like a shed hut. It's a huge living space. It's quite new. It's not an old thing. It's self kind of built or transported, and it's great. But where I'm staying right now is where I'm sitting. I can see the beautiful sunset coming on, and this is one of the days, it's the end of May, and we're having this beautiful day, which is kind of a rarity, or at least that's what it's felt like for me being here all this time. I just wanted to mention that, because as I just looked out the window, I just saw how beautiful it is. So back to Philip Gowman in Bristol. Now, that restaurant, Dongne, I might actually bolt on something at the end of this episode or insert something regarding that. But so we went for some Korean food, met Philip, brilliant to see him. And it was kind of last minute because I think he had mentioned something was spoken about on that London Korean Links group to say that, you know, people were discussing when they're going to see Park Jiha, when they're going to see her play. And someone mentioned Bristol, and I thought, oh, I'm in Bristol. And I think I'd seen it months or weeks before that Park Ji-ho was playing a few dates, but of course it hasn't, because I'm not in the UK for this, it hasn't been prominent in my mind. And suddenly when I found that out, I thought, oh, I can do that. So I met Philip, we had a great meal, really nice catch up. The last time I saw him was about a year before in Seoul, and that was our first time meeting in Seoul, and in Korea indeed, because we've known each other probably, well, more than a decade, and we've never actually met in Korea, but he's been kind of, when I getting into Korean culture, his articles or his events that he posted about, and it always just his knowledge was kind of very good, very helpful to me, kind of a muse in sort of some ways, someone I look up to who I could get reliable information from. And he introduced me to so many people over the years that I didn't, obviously I meet people organically, that word likes to be used these days, but he's been very helpful. So meeting him in Bristol was brilliant. We had a great time, great evening. He knew a bit about Bristol, he knew the area, and I knew some of the area, even though that was my first time in Bristol, believe it or not. I'm English, I'm British, and that was my first time there. Something else that happened while I was in Bristol, music related, was Say Su Mi were playing in Bristol, and again I was fortunate enough to catch them. I'd seen them once before at Zandari in Seoul. Now I might have mentioned that on other podcast episodes, but that's a kind of Hongdae based music festival, or Hapjeong and Sinchon, sort of, Hapjeong, Hongdae, Milak area, I think. And they were playing, and they had a support band, who was it now? Hazy Sour Cherry, and they might have had another support band touring with, but that was the one. They were a Japanese band, really good band. But Say Su-mi were amazing. I had a nice chat with them afterwards. Spoke to Su-mi, the singer, and I'd said that I'd seen them in Zandari before. We spoke about films, my stuff, and when to catch them next. They're from Busan as well. I've got a big heart for Busan. They were quite surprised that I knew some of these Busan areas that they perhaps weren't used to people knowing. I don't know. I can't really remember the conversation fully, but we did speak about Busan. So that was a brilliant evening in Bristol. So I've seen Park Jiha, seen Say Su-mi, and it was a really sort of good to have a bit of Korean culture in that time while I was in Bristol. So back to other sort of cultural stuff that I saw. Another one was, of course, Bong Joon-ho's Mickey, I was going to say Snowpiercer then, Mickey 17. Now, Mickey 17, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's the latest film from Bong Joon-ho. It's more in the region, it's more along the lines of his type of film that's more like Snowpiercer, or more like Okja, in that kind of wackiness. And of course it's less Korean and more Hollywoody. So I'd actually seen it once. I think I saw it once in I've actually done a podcast episode which I haven't uploaded or released, and maybe I'll put it as a bonus episode in this series that I recorded it sort of on the fly, walking around just after I'd seen it for a second time. Like the first time I saw it, it was in a place called Oxted, and that was way before I went down to Bristol. And then I saw it the second time at an Amaze, and there's a Korean connection coming up here as well, because there's another story to talk about regarding Bristol. But this particular venue is called The Watershed, a brilliant independent film venue in Bristol. And that's the second time I saw it, and I just wanted to see it again and enjoy it, because I felt like I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to just, it's easy to watch. It's it's a nice film it's a good film to take in. It's very easy, and it's, very, very well done. And the screening was good. I'm trying to remember if the screening I went to before was a bad colour or projection or something, but this they were both good, I think. But when I came out, I'm not sure. Yeah, it was that. I think it was that screening itself. I bumped into a guy, and I think he said he used to live in Sewol in Korea. Now that's well known for a couple of things, I'm sure, but it's well known for where Samsung had their headquarters or offices, and I think he said he used to teach there. And it was unusual, you're in a different city and you meet someone who's lived in Korea, and I'm pretty sure that's where I met them. We had a little discussion about that. So that was, another Koreanness thingy that happened while I was in Bristol. While I was in Bristol, or just before I went to, I think it was before, because it was in February. I think it was when I posted in the London Korean London Korean Links Facebook group about another Korean musician coming to the UK, but I don't think I'm going to be able to see it because my flight away from the UK is before this gig. But she's playing in various venues, and I'll come to her name in a second, in a few places, including London, Glasgow, and Bristol. Again, Bristol I think is on the 1st of July. And it's Lee Minhui. So if you know, she's touring with Japanese Breakfast. Now I'll let you look up Japanese Breakfast. A brilliant band. But Lee Minhui, she does lots of soundtrack music, but she's got a brilliant debut album called I think it's called Borrowed Tongue. Brilliant, melodic. Smooth, almost again soundtrack kind of music, but it's melancholic, I suppose. And she used to be one half of, if you've heard of the indie band, they're more than indie. I mean, they were huge at the time. In 2012, around that time, they were called Muki Muki Manmanzu. Now you might think that if you look them up, you might have even seen one of their videos before, because a lot of their videos got posted, and they still get posted now, because their music was so unusual, how they used a Django drum, how they sung, how they used their vocals. And it's almost, I'm not putting it down at all. I think they were brilliant. They didn't last very long, but she's gone on to do all this brilliant music work. And Minhui, I met her once actually in Seoul. I think it was part of Zandari again. She was playing a part of that. So anyone who wants to catch them, her, and also Japanese Breakfast, then they'll be able to do that. So what have we got left to talk about? I'm trying to touch on everything I can remember. So I'm just looking at the sunset again. Oh, it's beautiful. And the reason I did mention this shepherd's hut, is because when I talk about recording on the fly, I'm often, whether I'm in Chiang Mai, Thailand, or in Korea, I've got quite a few audio episodes, by the way, and a couple of video episodes that haven't been edited together from my time in Korea that I still haven't put out, and they'll be on my any videos that come from me are normally put on youtube.com/JasonVerney. You can find a kind of behind the scenes, kind of not trailer, behind the scenes video where I'm just explaining the editing process for this film, the Sewol Ferry full-length feature film, which I'm going to touch on more in a second about. You can see a video or two about that. But what I was going to say was, what I normally mention is that I normally say I'm in a recording space, but this time you might get a bit of echo or traffic, but that's not, I don't think it's been too bad, to be honest. I might be hearing the traffic, but you might not. So the other stuff I've noticed on this trip, I've been here over 3 months now. way more than I wanted to be, but I'm leaving in, 3 it's for about 3 weeks time to go back to Asia, and I'll touch back on that in a second. Things I've noticed is the Korean infused food. Of course, I noticed that a couple of years ago. It's becoming more and more, every place has got it now. It's becoming a bit like, Korean infused, Korean burger style burgers and Korean, even the cheap pub chains have a Korean fried chicken with a strange sauce, not gochujang, but maybe gochujang infused, I don't know. But those sort of things I've noticed, and it's getting to the point where now it's no longer new, it's just I'm just seeing it everywhere. And it's good to see Korean stuff being talked about, promoted, or what have you, but sometimes it's for the good or bad. It's different reasons. It depends what you think of it. So I'm going to just now touch on a couple more things, but one of those mainly will be my feature film that kind of came together accidentally, due to being an activist for the Sewol Ferry. It's close to my heart. I've got a lot of video footage over the years. I never was intending to make any kind of documentary. I was standing there as a demonstrator, as a memorial to remember the children and the adults lost. And we always liaise with the families and those involved in Korea. Whenever we have a memorial, we tell them, we show them that we're still thinking of those lost people, lost individuals. And I've been to the classrooms, the memorial classrooms in Seoul, or rather Ansan, which is in Gyeonggi-do area outside of Seoul. But it's I've been there twice, and it always affects me. And in this documentary, I talk about that, but also I talk about Mokpo. Mokpo is where the ferry is, and I've been there a couple of times. Once when it was on its side, and once when it was standing upright. More recently, a couple of years ago, and when I first went there in 2017, I'd already been to Korea a few times, but 2017, I went to the ferry, and I took some footage. I shot some footage. It was dreary, rainy a day, but it stuck with me. And when I came back in that year, or over the next few months, perhaps into 2018, I put this thing together with music by Moby Gratis, or Moby, and I just sat on that project. It was anywhere between 10-15 minutes sort of video art. Well, let's call it video art. Documontage is what I kind of refer to it as, and I named it District Sewol. So it's kind of, Sewol has its own district in that area. And that, I sat on it for, all this time, 7 years, and thinking, I want to get this out there somehow, but how do I put it out? And I thought, do I want to, can I sort of do an intro to this and make a reason for this and call it a documentary with this piece of art, video art in it? And then a couple of things happened. I think before I went to, there was an exhibition in Bangkok, and in March, and this features in the film. The film, which, if I've not mentioned it already, it's called Sewol, Sewol, which is the name of the ferry, but I've spelt out Sealed Eternally with Our Love. And it's called that, basically, Sewol, Sealed Eternally with Our Love. I did originally, a few years ago, make a little video art tribute. This full-length documentary is also a tribute, a 10-part tribute, but I made one called Sewol, Sent Eternally with Our Love, and this is like sealed, and it's kind of sealed. It's like closure to make the film. Obviously not closure for remembering, and I do say that at the beginning. But what I'm saying is, there was an exhibition happening in Bangkok to do spring, and I thought, that's so fitting to where I was going to for the 10-year anniversary of Sewol last year. And I saw 6 films at Jeonju International Film Festival, and all this features in the film. Lots of this features in the film. And I still didn't know what I was doing with my film. And then those films inspired me. They're all from different angles, and they inspired me how I can put this together with what I've already got, or what I can already put together. And then also being a jury member at the Sewol Whistler Film Festival in October, other stuff just spurred me on. The memorials I visited, the film festivals I went to, the Itaewon Memorial, all these things had so I put it together kind of rushed. It's kind of still in progress, really. I mean, the version, if you go along to the Kingston International Film Festival this coming Saturday, because I'm putting this out, the next Saturday, the first Saturday that'll be after this podcast episode, is the 7th of June, and that is the first Saturday of June. You'll be able to see this film. It's an hour and 10 minutes. Between 12-15 minutes or so, the video art is part of that. That is like a one part of the 10-part film. And yeah, I'm very proud of it. But it needs. I want to keep refining it. This is the UK premiere because it was put together quite sort of quickly. I mean, I haven't rushed it in theme or anything, but you've got to make things better. You've got to find the full resolution version of footage that you've already put in. Got to tweak the sound a bit in places still. You run out of time. I've submitted it to other festivals, and when they want it, you've got to get it as best you can up to that point. So that's what this version will be. So if you're going to go along to that, if you do, that's brilliant. If you don't, then that's fine. But it's a big thing for me. As I say, reparation, the dual language Korean English 30-minute drama, which I had back in 2022 there. As I say, that was also played there. So some of you might have been there for that. But it is part of a strand called the Muybridge. Now, this is an interesting part, or at least interesting to me. It might be boring for you. But Edward Muybridge, he's a very important man in the advent of film. He created I forget the name of it now, but the cylindrical device to show a moving image. Oh gosh, I can't remember now. That's terrible. That's going to bug me. Let me just... I think it's Zyrotrope or something. If I can find it while I'm talking about this, then I will. But it's a part of the strand of his films, so local kind of films that are also by local filmmakers now, or ones like me who have lived in the Kingston and New Malden area. Yes, so it's called, by the way, the Zubra. I don't know if this is the name that I've seen, but it's the Zubrascope. But I thought it was called something slightly different to that. But anyway, there's going to be about 5 short films from 10:15 a.m. in the Rose Theatre, Kingston, followed by my film, hour and 10 minutes. So if you can sit through those films, and I'm sure they're brilliant films. I mean, we're all the same. We're all filmmakers. Theirs is probably better than mine, to be honest. And but I will say that I'm really grateful for Kingston International Film Festival. They've already quoted it in marketing or emails. They've already said that they've called my film a beautiful documentary celebrating resilience and remembrance, which is good summarization or summary of what Sewol sealed eternally with our love is. So that's that. There's also another little thing, so spin off from that, talking about, this is a podcast, this is Not So Korean podcast, but I also run another one on the side called Micro Budget Filmmakers Podcast, and the reason I'm mentioning that is I started it with a fellow New Malden person and Kingston International Film Festival. Well, we've collaborated since, filmmaker Tida Natalie, and we started the Micro Budget Filmmakers Podcast. But also there's a guy Gareth Brown. He runs Flyer Films, and they're also behind the scenes and perhaps jury. I have to check the website, but jury members to do with the festival, Kingston International Film Festival. So there's some interesting sort of things connecting one another here. And going back to Edward Muybridge, and if you go to Kingston, there's a Kingston Museum. I think it's called Kingston Museum and Heritage Centre or something. I think it's all in one. I had an exhibition there once, or rather, sorry, there was an exhibition there upstairs, and there was 14 artists, I think, and there was 10 Korean artists, and I think it was called Korea Then and Now, depicting the different. I can't remember the exact name. If you go to LondonKoreanLinks.net, which is the website that run by Philip, and I mentioned earlier, you will, if you type in JasonVerney, it will probably come up, or if you just put in Korea Then Now, it will probably come up, because there was an exhibition then, and as I say, it was a strange Korea, Kingston and New Malden. Kingston keeps calling me back. Like originally I remember meeting Kim Kobe. She's an actress who's been in Dong Parry and the Ballad of Ghost Theatre. She's been in Dong Parry's Breathless, if you've seen that, and other films. But I met her years ago, way before I lived down that way, and I was doing work there for test screenings in Kingston, so that's cinema related. And then 2017, this video art, I was commissioned to be one of the 14 artists, and I have some video art, an 8-minute video art that I did, which I keep meaning to put onto YouTube and put it visibly on Vimeo, and I will do at some point. So this podcast episode was just really to talk about all these little things that have been happening. As I say, I was thinking of leaving earlier the UK, but there's family things happening, and there's also other things I needed to do, and including this festival. So I couldn't leave. I wanted to be. You don't have to be at a festival where your film is premiering or screening, but I want to be. There's going to be Q&A at the end. I might take part in other things. I want to be there for the award ceremony on Sunday evening. Incidentally, mine will be bracketed in with the other documentaries that aren't in that strand. So it's in competition. I don't expect to. I'm just saying it's an interesting linkage there. It's in one category, but it's also qualifying under a different category. So I'm looking forward to seeing. A few people have already said they're going to go. I created a Facebook event. Oh, and one other thing, talking about the Sewol Ferry, about a week after that, there is a picnic that the Sewol UK people are having in London, and I think it's in New Malden. I need to check those details. I should have those. Let me see if I can get them now while I'm doing this, just quickly, because I'm pretty sure I can. It's something I want to let people know about. So there's excuse me. It's on Saturday the 14th. A little gathering in New Malden, a kind of a picnic. So we're having that. I think it's as far as I'm aware, it's a public event. And so, but that's pretty much it. I really wanted to get this episode out, well, partly because there's so much that's been happening, and partly because this film of mine is screening, and I really have to thank also the activists that I keep speaking about, because without them I wouldn't have been making this film at all. they've, it touches also on things that I've been involved with, causes like comfort women's issue in Korea and other countries actually, and also, which I'm not going to go into on here, but also the Navy base on Jeju. There's footage from that and footage from me giving a couple of speeches there in the film. But these great friends of mine have been integral in all this, because I wouldn't have done it without them. This is, it means a lot. And I'm really, if they one or two of those do attend, as they've said they will, then that would be also great. I will also want, and the other reason is just to get it out there, because you can set up Facebook events, you can publicize it on Instagram, and I'm not trying to get hundreds of people. I mean, there's not enough room for hundreds of people in the Rose Theatre in the Rose Theatre screening, whatever it's called. The Rose Theatre, Rose Studio, that's what it's called, inside the Rose Theatre building. It's more that I feel bad if I miss out somebody, if I've not invited someone, if I've not posted a story. Not everybody is on these social media platforms, and sometimes you miss people. And if there's another chance to spread it by the podcast, then that's what I will do, and I have now done. So I'm going to leave it at that and say that I will speak to you in there was one more thing I just remembered. I don't know if this is really worth mentioning, but where I'm staying right now is quite close to Leeds Castle, which is nowhere near Leeds. And the last time I met, and this is a nice way to end because Tim and I started this podcast off, the last time I was in the UK, we didn't go to Hever Castle like we did this time, but we went to Leeds Castle just down the road. So Tim, if you're out there and you're listening, or I will see you anyway at the screening, that part of this episode is for you. And seeing as we're talking about you, Tim, I just remembered something else. That day of the Sewol 11th anniversary, when we met in New Malden, Tim had to rush off afterwards. He rushed off to visit one of our mutual friends in Croydon, EJ, and she had an exhibition on. Now, I have a friend in Croydon I was going to meet, so I went there. I couldn't make the exhibition in time. I met my friend, but also myself and Tim met again. So we kind of met in New Malden that day, and then we met in Croydon. So it was quite sort of a not-so-Korean podcast double reunion, even though we've met loads of time since we've been doing this podcast, and even when he's become sort of less of the co-host and only an occasional co-host. Perhaps we'll have him on for the 50th episode. Let's see how this goes. And one last thing, actually, it's weird. You go to these places that you think are remote, and something happens to do with a subject you're interested in, and in this case, Korea, and in fact, North Korea. I was staying up with my sibling in the Peak District, and a place I actually stayed at, which was not with them, the host showed me this book, and it's The Game of Their Lives, and I think I'm already aware of this. It's the 1966 football game between North Korea and Italy, and it was a 1-0 defeat. Now, you might know of this story. It was actually a documentary as well. I think this book is of the documentary. Anyway, and I just kept a photo of it, read a little bit, and I'll read up some more. But of course, it's to some of you more aware of this. You'll probably be aware of this book as well that matches this documentary regarding that 1966 triumph and, interesting story. Okay, that's it. So, all the best, and I'll just leave you with the words 안녕히 계세요. Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. So that's all from us. 안녕히 계세요. The original version of this video was uploaded to JasonVerney's YouTube channel, where it and many other videos, podcasts, snippets and films can be found. That channel can be found at youtube.com/JasonVerney.